loyalty before arraignment, now the system tainted. But when we speak, they all laugh at us. And y'all wonder why I'm lacking trust. Try to fight a giant with attorneys that can back them up. That church versus science, both sides start acting up. I'm late on my assignment, hopping up a mile high, climbing, obviously never silent. New alignment, I'm defiant, cannot describe it. Used to describe it as a young graffiti artist. Before the beard, I always got carded. At every bar, even though my bar's been the hardest. The scars on my face said I ain't always been the smartest, but I'll show you where my heart is. I said I'll show you where my heart is. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeves, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeves, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, I can show you where my...
The type of guy that would ride with the breeze. I'm higher than most people, I'm cold and icicle freeze. I'm liking to Mike Tyson, I'm a bison, a beast. I'm high like Jamaica, like right by the beach. My pops is from a spot where they're fighting for peace. 8 years old, out there watching people fight in the streets. All these sirens only make the violence increase. Yeah, we're still not loving police. It's that bright young American, nice, dumb, arrogant. Tight on a mic, but he might need a therapist. Heart full of kerosene, head full of fairy tales. Said that you're my homie, you don't know me, but I know you very well. Roll back on some West Coast shit. This whole track is wetter than your dress code kiss. About to hit the track, running on some retro fit. I guess so lit, I guess so bitch, now let's go.
I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeves, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody...
Ladies and gentlemen, Tuesday. And what a Tuesday it is. We got plenty to discuss. Get to hang out with the fellas a little bit. A little sports nonsense whiskey time, ladies and gentlemen. Cheers. Fellas, how we doing? Robert, Pinky, my guys.
Well, it's Tuesday, and that's all I have to say. We're not going to talk about anything else in the world because it's sports day, and that's all that fucking matters today. We'll talk about the rest of it tomorrow.
Well, that's simply not true. I mean, it's one of the biggest Tuesdays every 4 years, so there's worth a mention there.
But, I mean, sure, but not that we're going to be talking about that on this certain podcast, because who's got time for that?
Well, I will say that, and this is all I'll say about it, everybody should vote. And there's no reason we can't all find common ground.
110%.
What? Yeah, everybody should vote, and there's no reason we can't all find common ground. Don't listen to Washington. We're not as against each other as they want you to believe. We're much more together. The sooner people start realizing that, the better off this country will be.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I see way more people that can't be friends with people that have opposite views of them, and there's way too much of that now. We can't even have, again, polite conversations.
Well, that's the problem.
You know,
but if we stop listening to certain people telling us everything's hell in a handbasket and racism and this, that, and the other, and you start realizing we actually have a lot more in common than we have differences, let's start having conversations. And they should be. They should be conversations. You should be able to walk away with respect. Just like we say, this is what we're all about when it comes to sports conversation, right?
Absolutely.
That should extend everywhere.
And that's why personally I'm like, there's too much. No, I'm not gonna go there.
Look, we're not all gonna agree, right? But we can still walk away at the end of the day showing respect to each other and understand that we do have more in common than we don't.
Absolutely.
So there's that. Tuesday happens once every 4 years. We'll see how things turn out. Hopefully the country starts moving in the right direction one way or another. And, you know, you don't hear people talking about my kids are screwed conversation as much anymore. Because I think there's a lot of really good things in this world going forward that people forget how bad it used to be with certain situations. We got it pretty good right now, guys.
Personally, I think between the 80s and 90s is when the American man and women were the most free. But I'm just going to leave it at that. That's my personal opinion. I'm just going to move on from that. But that's my thought.
Pretty bad economically. So, you know, I think people get this recency bias with everything. Like, that's with everything. And whether it's a good or bad recency bias, it seems to overshadow everything else. And that's why history is so important. You
It
know your
is.
history in any situation, and it helps you dictate the future.
Well, I just finished. That's a perfect segue, Caleb, into a fantastic show I just finished on Apple TV called The Foundation, which deals with a theory called psychohistory, where you're able to predict empires and falling and changes of time with previous events that have happened. It's very intriguing. I have not read the books. I want to read the books, but the sci-fi concept was very interesting and very applicable to today's world. Highly recommend it. As a show, again, I cannot speak for the actual foundation that it was written on. I made a pun there, haha. But highly recommend it. It's on Apple TV. There's 2 seasons. Season 3 is coming out. Definitely give it a shot. Very intriguing.
Word. Pinky, where do you want to head this evening? Where do you want to start, my guy?
Well, is there any nonsense to cover first off?
Well, I got some nonsense. I'm wearing my slick Drew Brees jersey. I'm getting ready to head to NOLA, boys. I'm gonna leave the snow for some 80-degree tropical storm weather.
I could have been there. I'm disappointed that I'm not going, but life happens, and so be it. But I'm jealous, Pinky. I hope you have an excellent time, sir.
You should have gotten an Archie Manning jersey.
Andy got that.
All right.
So he's 8. I'm 9. And then I don't know who 10 is for the Saints. I don't know. But
As long as you're not rocking a Michael Thomas jersey, I'm happy.
No, Drew Brees was awesome, man. He was awesome.
Brees was awesome.
What he did for that city made them, even in those 3, 7, and 9 years before they had the 2017 draft, like he at least gave them hope every game that they were going to win versus going into every game knowing you're going to lose. So
everybody in New Orleans should, regardless of the fact that it's Louisiana, should be a Nick Saban fan and a Miami Dolphin fan, because without them, you would not have had Drew Brees. You should be thanking them every single day that they didn't pull the trigger on Brees and went with Mr. Dante Culpepper.
Right. That's for sure. That is for sure. God. And you know, whoever that doctor was that didn't clear him and was like, nah, because he wanted to sign him Miami.
Wild, man. And they went with Dante Culpepper coming off a knee injury, wasn't he?
Yes. And so, he never regained his strength in the knee, and it just he was never the same guy ever.
He also didn't have Randy Moss to throw the ball to anymore, so that definitely changes things a little bit as well.
When you have Randy Moss and Chris Carter, you're probably going to be all right.
I will say though, he's got one of my favorite touchdown celebrations of all time. When he threw those deep bombs to Moss, and he would just look to the sideline and just be like, "Rolling." I love
talk about TD celebrations. We have some conversations this evening about what happened on Sunday, because that shit was awesome.
We'll get there, Robert. We'll get there. So feisty tonight.
I mean,
ready, bro.
You talking about the headstand?
For both of them, yes.
I mean, there was 4 technically, because a high schooler did it like 2 weeks ago. Then the college guy did it, and then the 2 professionals did it.
Last time I checked, we care about NFL mainly here, so that's what I'm.
Whoa!
No, we don't.
We give everybody some love,
I mean,
Robert.
we'll give everybody some credit, but
come on, baby.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about the original. We prefer to give credit where credit's due. So I don't know the high schooler that did it, but that's who should be getting the original credit, not 2 NFL players who copycatted something.
I won't disagree with you.
But back to Pinky. Gonna have some fun in New Orleans. Gonna have some good food, some great drinks, good company. Gonna have an amazing time. I haven't had a break since the draft, so this is good. I need it, and it's gonna be awesome. I
Shit, I
I
haven't
don't
had
think.
a break in 3 years. You're talking about like
Well, that's
come
your
on
own
now.
fault, man. I did my time. All right. I just did it in my 20s. So you waited till you were 40. That's
Yeah,
on
and
you,
you're
man.
giving me crap about it right now myself, Pinky, so I don't want to hear it, all right?
Hey, bro, like I'm just telling you, when you get kids out of the way early, you're in your early 40s and now you're able to do
I
things
am
again. When you
110% happy that I don't have kids right now. Like, let me just make that abundantly clear.
I know. And then when you're 40 and you're tired as shit because you got young kids, it's gonna
You're
come back
breaking
around.
up so bad, dude. I don't know what to tell you.
Looks good on my end.
I mean, look, I always wanted to be a young dad. That's just not how the cards fell. So I take my blessings as they come and roll with it. So I'm not mad. I'm not mad.
Listen, if you ask anybody who knew me in high school and like around that time, they would have taken the over under that I would have absolutely fathered a child before my sister she's had 2 children. So I'm doing pretty fucking well for myself, and I'm pretty happy about that.
Can't fault you there. All right. I would say I'd talk about Crown Jewel, but I don't think either one of you guys watched it. So
all right, listen, I had my niece this weekend. I had niece duties, so no, but I will watch it. I know Tiff didn't cash in, and I'm very disappointed about that because she talked about it on Friday. She was gonna cash in against Liv and asked about Dom, and I'm a little frustrated about that. But that is what it is.
she didn't get a good opportunity because Raquel Rodriguez kept jumping in.
Yeah, no, she denied that pretty
they're,
heavily.
They're continuing that storyline.
So
let me know when the bloodline isn't a thing anymore.
They're gonna. I mean, that's probably running at least through WrestleMania. Because I got a feeling we're gonna see Rock and Roman at
It's such a tired, boring, stale storyline that they circled back to the original bloodline. Like, just the originality is so lost right now. It's a bummer. It's a bummer for me.
So
understood.
I can't fault you there. That was an entertaining match, except for Roman really didn't do anything. I'm wondering, and he looked real slim too. I'm wondering if he's still dealing with some cancer or something because he just he didn't really do a whole lot. And he lost. So to Sikoa pinned him. So the Randy Orton Kevin Owens thing was a brawl. They had a lady 3-way tag match. That was actually really entertaining. That was some good stuff. And then Gunther and Cody Rhodes. That was a really good match. That was the headliner. That was a good match. You would have enjoyed that. So had a really good ending to it. Just a good night overall. I hung out with Ron, our boy. He's excited to jump back on. He actually was like, yeah, man, I think if we can come on once a month, I would love to do that. And I'm like, you're welcome, man. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. So it was good. Crown Jewel's worth watching. Next one is War Games, I think, is the next one here at the end of the month. And then I think so. And then again, we got to get you back for 2025, man. Cena's last year. We got to get you back in, man. Cena's last year, Royal Rumble. You're going to watch Royal Rumble.
I mean,
you're going to watch
Royal Rumble. WrestleMania would be hard not to watch.
Hold on.
To confirm,
you were watching Royal Rumble. You are getting a pass. You were watching Royal Rumble. It is my birthday. It's on my birthday.
November 30th. Oh, wait. Next year.
February, what, 3rd or something like that?
1st.
Okay.
February 1st. It's a Saturday. It's in Indianapolis. It's Royal Rumble. It's on my birthday. We are getting together and having a good time.
I can make that happen. Yeah, I can make that happen. It's the week after I'm actually going to Phoenix for my sister's wedding. So, yes, we can make that happen.
And to confirm, yes, War Games is the next event, November 30th, Saturday at 4:30.
All right. That'll be a good one.
Which, Caleb, remind me, I am taking care of family duties the weekend or the week between Christmas and New Year's, correct?
Yes.
So that's their Lord of the Rings marathon, right, Robert?
Yeah. Yes. We'll get it done because it needs to happen, Pinky. I know like there's so much that needs to be discussed between that because I know Caleb and I could nerd out on Lord of the Rings and its entirety for hours, and I don't want to open that.
All right.
That bottom.
Are you guys going the 3 Hobbits into the 3 Lord of the Rings, or are you just going to do director's cut 4.5 hour piece Lord of the Rings?
I guess if me and Robert are snuggling and hanging out, maybe, but I mean that's a commitment. Those the 3 Hobbit movies and then the 3 Lord of the Rings.
That'd be 2 days. Say,
just the Lord of the Rings itself is a day and a half on its own.
I will say, side note, real quick, and we can move on. The only thing I was bummed about with Lord of the Rings, and it's not even a huge I'm bummed thing, but I was slightly disappointed that they didn't give the Hobbits their final story, where they go back to the Shire and they actually have to fight and clean up and destroy the remaining Saruman forces.
I mean, that would have added
their land.
That would have added like another 30 minutes to the end of the Return of the King.
Totally good with that.
Another hour, like
totally good
with
that.
Man, no way.
No. I'm sorry, but I mean, Pinky, we live in the era right now where I'm sorry, we got 2 parts of a Hunger Games book that was the shortest of them all, and The Hobbit, mind you, was the shortest book of the entire Lord of the Rings series. And that was 3 movies, which didn't need to be 3 movies.
It was a 1 movie
4
thing.
4 hours, and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But no, we got 3 movies, a bunch of unnecessary added crap, and some history from what Tolkien added after the fact. Like, nah. I'm sorry, man. You're not going to win that. No way.
I mean, having them meet Saruman and Wormtongue on the road and seeing that Saruman's words can still carry some weight, but all his power's gone, and then getting back to the Shire and overcoming and showing the people that they're true warriors now, and it would have been awesome. It would have been awesome.
What really upsets me too is if you want to dissect this at face value, it was shown in the Fellowship in Galadriel's well. It was shown. And then there was nothing else expanded after that, which again is fine because there was other things that were incorporated, but there was still a very gigantic segment missing from the culmination of Return of the King and what mattered. But it's okay.
It's all right.
The movies itself, they stand on their own. And again, it's Hollywood. You have to take the victories where you get them. You will never get a full adaptation of a book.
I mean, if we're being honest, of all the books I've read that have been adopted into a film, I don't think anything even comes remotely close to how great Lord of the Rings was.
Not at all. And coming from and I mean, we've debated on this heavily on our show, is Dune. Again, Dune itself with these 2 movies changes a lot fundamentally from the books. I have problems with that. And with them and now coming out with Dune Messiah in 2026, there are problems that I have because...
Oh, we lost Robert.
We did.
Oh, I hit mute. That was my bad. I hit mute. There were a lot of things that were
so
lost in the storytelling that I'm very curious to where they're going to be able to tell Dune Messiah because a lot has been omitted or changed. So I respect it. Again, as a book lover, this is the closest that we're going to get as a faithful adaptation. So where that goes from here is left to interpretation. We've got 2 years. We'll see where it goes. But Lord of the Rings as a movie compared to books is one of the most faithful depictions that has been told, in my opinion. In my personal opinion. It will be argued on forums, but that is what I believe.
I mean, we're not even talking about, like, I'm saying they left out the Shire. You could even go as far as the entire Tom Bombadil situation that they left out is a huge miss.
Not only that, but I mean, you had Eowyn and Faramir develop a very significant relationship after she was redeemed from killing the Witch King. So there's a whole dynamic that is or multiple dynamics, that are not touched upon in just the very last act.
We might just have to do a separate show called Nerds Unite and
let's go.
Just talk nerd stuff. All right, we
sign me up.
We got to move on.
But yeah, anyway, sports. Let's talk sports.
Sports.
Yay, sports.
Pinky. So
that just reminds me of a girl we used to work with. She used to always be with Robert and I'd start talking sports, and she'd be like, "Yay, sports!"
Which, speaking of, yay, sports, Pinky, I will eat my crow this evening because I don't know if you kept up on your bets this afternoon for the Champions League, but Liverpool
I just saw they lost.
Decimated Leverkusen 4-0, which again, I told you this afternoon I would not have taken because Leverkusen was the champion from the Bundesliga last year. And they had one of the most renowned seasons of wins. They got demolished. So, Pinky, I'm sorry. I hope you took some money away from that.
No, I lost my two bets. My two soccer bets were toast.
Sorry to hear that. I will eat the shit that I bestowed upon you earlier that Leverkusen would have been who I picked.
I got greedy. I was like, ooh, a lot of people are betting on these two soccer bets. I'm gonna bet on it too. So, and they didn't work out.
I'll give it to you. My bad, bro.
All good. Hey, I think we had not had it final. It was pretty much finalized, but it wasn't completely finalized last week when we were talking. Congrats to the LA Dodgers.
Yeah, they won the day after we wrapped the cast. So yes, Dodgers, way to go. And by the way, all the best wishes to Shohei Ohtani with his torn labrum and getting surgery. I read that this afternoon. He's supposed to be good by spring training, but again, shoulder surgery is never fun after having already been through surgery this last season. So,
which shoulder is?
I believe it was his
throwing shoulder.
I believe it was his right, if I recall correctly.
Is he a lefty or is he a righty when he pitches?
Caleb, you know more than this.
Ohtani, he bats left, he throws right.
So, I correct me if I'm wrong.
So it was his left?
Caleb, it was the right shoulder he dislocated when in Game 4.
If it's his right shoulder, I mean, sometimes with those shoulder injuries. I can't remember
now. Hang on, I'll look it up.
I got it.
Okay, you look it up. I want to say it was his left shoulder, but I also heard, and I haven't had a chance to look this up yet, but I heard somebody on the radio.
His left shoulder.
Yeah, his left. That's why I wasn't concerned when it happened initially. He didn't dislocate it. It's a torn labrum.
No. Whoa. Hang on. Hold on.
He had surgery for a torn labrum.
After dislocation.
He tore it after.
That's what
he dislocated it.
Yeah, Dodgers.
I don't remember a dislocation.
Shoulder surgery after dislocation.
I think the initial reports were dislocation, turned out to be a torn labrum, is what
Hang on. So, Ohtani suffered what the Dodgers initially described as a subluxation or slight dislocation of his left shoulder in an attempted steal of second base in Game 2 of the World Series.
That was the initial thought and report, but it turned out to be, at least from my understanding, not a dislocation like they originally believed. It was a torn labrum. Semantics. Either way, it's a shoulder injury, but the torn labrum.
Shoulder surgery for Ohtani.
I also heard, and I haven't had a chance to, if you guys want to pull this up right now, did he have a second procedure on his elbow? They said it was very minor is what I was hearing, but
I have not seen anything on that. All that I saw was that he had arthroscopic surgery on his shoulder today. I didn't see anything else.
Either way, again, left shoulder, so not a huge concern when it comes to pitching. Obviously caused some issues for him the rest of the series when it came to batting, but he was already kind of cold before that happened. So, how much that truly affected the overall performance hard to say. It's definitely going to affect your swing. Not trying to say it doesn't, but it'll be interesting to see how they handle him once the spring rolls around come February and pitchers have to report. Is he there reporting in February with the pitchers and February with the pitchers and catchers? And is he throwing in spring training, or do they ease him? Do they ease him in even more? So that'll be interesting to see. Freddie Freeman was not just playing with a bum ankle, as it turns out. He had a myriad of other injuries he was battling. So the fact that he did what he did is just absurd. He went on a tear that we've just not seen the likes of. So obviously MVP, Kershaw finally getting his parade, even though he didn't pitch at all. That was cool to see. And then on the opposite side, Yankees did get Cole to re-sign for basically the same deal he was already on. They'll look to renegotiate that and sign him to long-term. But do they get Soto? That's going to be a huge question mark for them going forward. And does Soto re-sign with the Yankees? Cohen, the owner of the Mets, came out today and said, I will outbid anybody no matter what. Money will not be the reason we don't get Juan Soto. And he's proven he will do that. He's already done that in the past and went and signed a super team, and it fell on its face with Scherzer and DeGrom and Lindor and everybody else that they had on that team, and they drastically underperformed where he broke it all up and was good with starting over, basically. Pete Alonso is a free agent. Do the Mets re-sign Pete Alonso and get Juan Soto? Does he go somewhere else for less money because he thinks he has a better chance to win with the Yankees possibly? The Soto one is going to be very interesting for the Yankees. The Dodgers have said they're interested, and they've shown that they'll dip way into the luxury tax to sign anybody they want to. So there's a lot of interesting storylines going in the offseason. Dodgers are definitely going to be the front runners come the beginning of next season with their staff fully healthy on the pitching side, and then obviously the bats that they have. I mean, it's going to be an interesting next, call it 30 days in baseball, because free agency kicks off here in a minute, and then, all hell breaks loose. So the other big name I'm looking for, I know Corbin Burns is probably the biggest pitching name out there. And there's talks of him getting upward, $200 million on a deal for Corbin Burns. Soto's talking anywhere between $500 and $700 million. But the name I'm interested in seeing outside of Juan Soto is actually Max Fried from the Braves. He's had some injuries here that have cost him some years and some time, but when he was right, he's one of the best lefties in the game right now on the mound, I think. And so he could be a huge addition to somebody's staff, especially if he goes to somebody who's a contender. And he could still end up back in Atlanta, which would be huge for Atlanta. With the injuries they had this year, I think people are forgetting how good that roster is. But they had a lot of injuries that took them kind of out of the picture right after the All-Star break. So it's not like Atlanta's, devoid of talent.
Which
so,
I also, just to be clear, Aaron Judge is going to be available to drop the ball on New Year's Eve in New York just because that's what he does. So
no, that's cold. This is why baseball and me don't get along. That was the first error Judge has had. It was like in 363 possible fielding decisions dating back to like a year and a half ago. It just is unfortunate that it happened to him in the World Series. And that's where, me and baseball traditionalists get very opposite sides of the fence, right, Pinky? I see things and I love the game. I always have. It's a chess match. I grew up as that was, my grandfather's and my father's favorite sports. It got down inherited to me that way. So I've always loved the game. For whatever reason, I've always had a very different lens that I look through when I watch it. And it is not a baseball lens, apparently, in the slightest. So, I talked about guys like Judge and Ohtani going on their cold streaks as the playoffs rolled around. And
Judge was virtually non-existent in the postseason and World Series last time I checked.
He wasn't, except for he did show up in the final game. And then his error, unfortunately, started a domino effect for the Yankees that they couldn't get out of. So Baseball is a wild game, a wild game that I find very fascinating. And let's be honest, I love history, like absolutely love history. There is not a sport, any sport, as far as I'm concerned, that can compare with baseball when it comes to history, because they can basically trace back every modern day stat all the way back to like 1900. And you can literally compare the same stats for every player for the last 120 plus years. That's wild that the game has been that similar for that long, that you can truly compare it in that regard. And they're valid comparisons. Now, you can talk about the dead ball era, the live ball era, steroid era, and things of that nature, and separate them out that way. But they're still the exact same stats. You know, like basketball didn't start counting blocks until like 1975. Yeah, football and the different rule changes they've had that have drastically altered and significantly changed the game in such a way that it is hard to compare stats over different eras. You know, it's a very interesting thing when you start diving into it.
And actually, you know, that you bring up an interesting point with that, Caleb, because when Pinky and I last night were over with Andy watching the Chiefs game, there was a moment where they considered it a dropped pass from Travis Kelce, and we all sat there for a few minutes debating the fact that, you know, he held a possession and the ball was hit out by the tackle, so it should have been a reception fumble that he recovered. And, you know, a lot of the stats that, as far as receiving has been concerned, should really be looked at under a different lens for some of these situations to kind of see where the stats line up from past times. It really does have, I think, an impact to the game, because when you're looking at stats and receptions and all these other things that play into a player itself, there a lot of different mediums, there's a lot of different standards, and I think there should be a I don't want to say like a streamline, but a understanding, or a gentleman's understanding of what that truly means.
And one of the things I've always said, and I don't remember exactly when I learned this or who I learned it from, or if it was just kind of an epiphany because I love history and I love numbers and geeking out into those stats, and I always have. My brother and I used to watch games and write down and keep track of our own stats for every game we watched. I got a notebook that I found a little while back of our Thanksgiving Day game stats that we kept. So the beauty and the curse of numbers is you can make them say whatever you want to support your viewpoint, and you don't have to lie to do it. It's just whether or not you omit or add certain things within that view and that conversation to justify or denounce what you're discussing.
Context matters, right? The Ravens right now have the best run defense in the league, and coincide that with they have the worst pass defense in the league. Well, if you can't run the ball on them, you're probably going to throw the ball. When you get down by 30 points, you're going to pass the ball a lot more, right? You're not going to run the ball. So again, you're not running the ball, so you're not driving up their averages to make them worse on the run D, but you're throwing it because you have to, because you're down. It's going to cause the numbers to be skewed. You can make those things really kind of work in your favor, however you want to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love it. So congratulations to the Dodgers. They got it done. I don't think anybody can be talking about their Mickey Mouse 2020 championship anymore. I don't like that term to begin with. Everybody got a chance. Everybody got to play. The Dodgers won. It's a championship. Don't knock it off with this. Like, it was only 65 games and this, that, and the I don't want to hear it. But for anybody that was saying that, well, you can't say it anymore. They won 2024, and that was a full season. You can't take anything away from them. And congrats, LA. You got another parade.
You got another
Which,
parade.
I
And
mean, it's cool. Good for them.
they won't get one from the Lakers anytime soon. And
Which,
well,
I mean,
the Rams and Chargers are going to be in the conversation, but they probably won't get there.
Do the Chargers
At
really
least
count as an LA
Before-
championship, though?
before we get to football,
hey, they pay their rent, okay? They pay their rent.
I guess.
I mean, at least the
call it
Clippers
that,
went and built their own arena, right? At least Steve Ballmer was like, no. I know I bought this franchise where we share and rent from the Lakers, but I'm not playing that game long term. I'm going to go do my own thing. The Spanos are like, we could save a little bit of money. Let's save a little bit of money.
I think they are the poorest owners in sports.
Well,
so,
look.
Poorest owner in football, I believe.
Yeah, I got you. Which, I mean, honestly, we've kind of said this before, but the more we get into it and the more you kind of look at it, NFL is by far the king of sports right now in America, right? But NFL owners on a whole are some of the poorest owners in North American sports,
Right.
which is kind of wild to think about.
They're a big fraternity. It's hard to get into.
It's crazy, man. Absolutely crazy.
And again, they get, minus the Cronkies, most of the teams get their cities to put in quite a bit of city money or taxes to pay for the stadium. So,
well, and the Cronkies are unique in the sense that they're all about land development is kind of their main focus. And so the idea of letting the city have a share of that completely devalues your overall earning potential. And the Cronkies are like, nah, we're good. We'll just pay for everything because we know long term it's going to generate way more back into our pockets. So,
right.
Kind of hard to be mad at them when they look at ownership that way. I
did have a quick question about this, because I had seen something very quickly, and I wasn't sure, Caleb, mainly if you had seen this, but I believe it was the Toronto game. I could be wrong, but I read something about Bronny James's name being chanted in the arena.
Toronto, yep.
Please elaborate, because I'm very perplexed by this.
I think the way he carries himself, I think people are starting to he's ingratiating themselves to the overall NBA fan base because of the way he carries himself, handles his business, and the way he speaks publicly. He does come across as very humble and grateful. By all accounts, first dude in the building, last one out. He's really trying to, regardless of how he got the opportunity, stand on his own 2 feet with that opportunity. And I think the fans overall, true NBA fans, are recognizing that. And they're trying to show their support for a kid who's trying to do things the right way. A young man who's trying to do things the right way. He's not complaining about getting sent down to the G League. He's not trying to complain about, if I got more minutes, I'd be able to show out more. He hustles all the time when he's on the court. He tries to do the right things, make the right basketball plays, play the game the right way. So I think that's what you're seeing. And that's kind of what I said was going to happen long term for him.
Well, I'm glad that they finally were like, okay, you had a couple games. You need to go down to the G League and get some more experience.
He's going to bounce back and forth all season. I think big televised, nationally televised situations. I think he'll be back up Christmas.
But
I think they'll pull him up for Christmas, and I think it's just they know that's viewership, and him getting a couple minutes here and there doesn't affect their win or loss.
Well, there are a lot of young players that need minutes to get better, and during the season, it's tough to get those minutes, right? Because you're trying to get a minutes, you're trying to win. It's situational, hell, for the Nuggets, Zeke Naji got some minutes last night, but that's because Aaron Gordon got hurt. Zeke Naji hadn't touched the court yet, and he he played in previous season pretty good minutes. So
he shouldn't touch the court, but that's a whole nother story for a different time.
you run out of options when
yeah. Bench got real thin.
Injuries.
I will say this: I still truly believe long term, Bronny can turn into a solid 3-and-D guy in the league. I've said that since he went to USC last year. I still fully believe that. I see the capability and the signs of that potential. Now, that could be a 7th or 8th man in the rotation. I'm not saying he's a starter, but I do see him being able to be a solid 3-and-D type long term. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, he's shown that he does have some defensive skills. It's the consistency on offense that he really needs to work on. So we'll see.
I just had that to say about the NBA. I don't know if there's anything else.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was very.
I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was a very appealing topic.
NBA's
just getting by that.
Just getting rolling, but Oklahoma City Thunder is on fire right now.
Which
7-1, I believe. 7-1.
7-0. I thought
they lost one.
Let's see.
I might be wrong, but I thought
they are 7. They are 7-0, and they play the Nuggets tomorrow night.
Okay, Boston must be 7-1 then. That's who was 7-1.
They play the Nuggets tomorrow. Andy's going to that game.
That's unfortunate. That's going to be.
Celtics are 7-1, and the Warriors are 6-1.
Warriors 6-1. Cavs are 8-0, I believe.
8-0. Yeah, that's surprising as well.
I'll just throw this out there. There's two things that I have said keep an eye on, and I don't know if others have always agreed with me, but Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey in Detroit are balling. And I fully expected to see that next step this year, and I think you are seeing it. Now it's early season, but they're balling. And then I remember a couple years ago saying Wemby is not something we haven't seen before because Chet Holmgren already exists. And their numbers this year are showing that they are the same dude. I'm not trying to say Chet is going to be as good as Wemby long term. I don't know if I can say that at this point, but I think look, I ate my crow already. Scoot Henderson was not what I thought he was going to be. Okay. Like, I'm good with saying that. He has drastically underperformed from what I thought he would be able to do as a point guard coming into the league. I do still think, though, Wemby got more hype than what he maybe should have had. But I'm still kind of waiting to see because he is playing with nothing around him. So you put some stars around him, or at least a couple almost all-stars, because right now he's playing with a bunch of bench dudes. You put some actual starters around him, and he could take another level and become truly generational. But I don't. Right now, I think him and Chet are the same dude. And it would be interesting to see what Wemby could do with all that talent around him at Oklahoma City and what Chet would be able to do with no talent around him in San Antonio. I don't know if I could say Chet would be able to do the same things, but they are both really good players.
I think Wemby is a little bit smoother than Chet and a little more athletic than Chet.
I'm not going to necessarily disagree with you there. But you look at their numbers right now for this season, they are basically identical.
Biased.
But I do like Chet a lot. I like Chet a lot. And I do like Wemby. Yeah!
What do you...
Lecky scored.
Nice. What are you biased about, Robert?
First game back in a while.
Caleb, I'm a nerd. I appreciate nerds, and especially when they're outspoken nerds. That's my thing. And Wemby's
a big nerd.
He just met the entire, the Star Wars cast. He met Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. He loves Star Wars Legos. I personally love Wemby. So, I'm anything for this man.
You need to go look up, drawing a blank.
I'm ready.
Miles Turner. Look up Miles Turner Legos. There's a lot of nerds in sports, my guy. Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams with the Saints.
Dude, that's my homie.
Okay.
That's my homie.
I'll get some other names to you so you
listen,
you can
Caleb,
fandom out a little bit more and grow.
We're a little early to get into NFL, but I will tell you personally, 2.5 years ago when the Lions, my team, had Jamal Williams, and that motherfucker popped off after I forget who was injured that season, but he was their replacement and was just amazing. And then they let him go. I cried, like legit man tear, like happened, and I was like, okay. And he's at the Saints now, and that's okay. Which, I mean, the Saints started off well, and now
It's
they're
one of
just a
those
burning
things
dumpster
where,
fire. But
David Montgomery was a little bit younger, a little bit cheaper, so
I'm
but
not
it's the
gonna put it
same
on the line. Like,
player.
it is what it is.
I know,
I
it's-
make my
Robert-
peace with it.
Robert, you've seen Wemby play live.
I have, and that is also another reason why I am biased. Is I personally
He did a 5-for-5 game when we
Yes.
were in
Look,
attendance.
I'm on the
like,
record of saying I secretly, as much as I shouldn't say this as a Nuggets fan, I secretly would love to see Cooper Flagg go to San Antonio and play with Wemby and form
The
the
Twin
new-
Towers.
like again
Look.
personally. I don't have a. I mean, I guess I could because we can really go back into Robert lore and deal with this. But like when I was a kid, the first team that I played for on a basketball team as a little freaking peewee was the Spurs team. So like I appreciate the Spurs, but again, I also have not really given a crap about basketball until recently. So Nuggets, Spurs, that's kind of like my thing. And just so happens that my first actual game was a Nuggets and Spurs game. So
Nice.
like there's a lot of
I'm gonna see-
sentimental value here with that. So
I'm gonna
I
see Wemby
appreciate
again in
Wemby
2 weeks.
more. All right, because that's right. You're going to. Oh man.
I'm gonna go see him play OKC in San Antonio.
I'm a big David Robinson guy. I think he is just criminally underrated in the all-time center conversation. The dude scored, I want to say 71, I believe, 71 points in a game. He's got a quadruple double. People want to talk about him like stat padding and stuff. Like, I don't want to hear that nonsense. You don't score that many points just to stat pad. Like, you've got to be good to do it. And I'll argue you have to be great to do it. The Admiral also lost a couple years of his overall career because of his Navy service and having to work around that and get out of that. So I think he is criminally underrated in the all-time greats conversation and doesn't get brought up enough. Now,
I don't know.
do I think he's the all-time great center? No. I would probably put 4 or 5 guys ahead of him easily. But I think he should still be in the conversation. That's all.
It's tough. I mean, he's not on Mount Rushmore of centers, but like, do I still have fond memories of him? Was he still amazing? Yes. But yeah, he's not on Mount Rushmore of centers.
And if I'm being perfectly honest right now, the Nuggets need to, at this point of the season, pull the cord. Jokic needs to have some fiend injury like David Robinson had. They need to find a way to try to get in the lottery. Pray they can get the number 1 pick like the San Antonio Spurs did with Tim Duncan and reset. They also need to fire Booth and move on from that awful GM. And there's a lot of things. We're not going to go into that. Continue, good sir.
Anything else NBA related? I will say our boy Joker is putting on a freaking clinic every night.
Caleb, no, don't speak that into the world. I saw your message in the chat. Don't bring it up.
I won't say it live. What I will say is I did not realize the level in existence of Russell Westbrook truthers. I am blown away at the number of people who have come out the woodworks to talk about how Russ is the perfect fit. He will work out long term. Pinky, you know me. I am a very definitive guy. If I see something, I feel like I can project fairly well long term from a small sample size. I don't need a large sample size to do it. Russ ain't it, man. Russ
Okay.
ain't even
Hold
close
on. Look.
Hey, I was about to say I'm feeling
Hold on.
attacked, Caleb, because I have him on fantasy.
Wait.
So
hold on.
Fantasy, it's not necessarily bad. I'm
Russell Westbrook. First couple games were atrocious, just atrocious. His last couple games have actually been pretty damn good.
Yeah, but that's what's
so
going
it's
to happen.
Kind of tough. Like, yeah,
No,
so
no,
that's
no.
where it's kind of like
No,
one
no.
of those things. Like, which Russ are you getting?
That's the problem. You're going to get 5 or 6 bad to awful games, and then you're going to get 1 or 2 good games. Not even great. He's not going to give you great games anymore.
I don't. And again, I don't want I just want him to be just to keep up his consistency as he continues to figure his role out. It's possible we could get that. Is that really likely? Probably not. But again, we're 7 games in. I'm not going to just be like, oh, this is a waste. Joker wanted him for a reason. He saw something in his game that made him think, hey, this guy can work for us.
Look, I started to have this conversation on social media, and I decided to just bow out. The national media reported that Joker wanted him. Joker was asking for him. The local media was basically saying the Nuggets were pursuing him, and they basically went to Jokic and said, is this good with you? And he said, yeah, I'm good with that. Very different scenarios. Very different scenarios. I have a very hard time believing the national media report that Jokic went to the front office and said, go get me Russell Westbrook. I do believe the report saying the front office said, hey, we're going to go pursue him. What do you think? And Jokic was like, yeah, I'm good with that. Let's move forward. Though that's very different. That's very, very different things.
And again, we need him to be a different player than he's been in the past.
But you're not going to get that. He's a bad shooter. Russ, I don't hate you. And in fact, if you go back, I was very high on you and the way you played and said you should have won the MVP when you got the triple-double. I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm trying to look at this as objectively as possible. The last 4 years, your game has declined every year, basically. You are a bad shooter. Let's talk facts. You're a bad shooter. You are a turnover machine.
That is a fact.
You are a turnover machine. You play average to below average defense. None of those things are the missing puzzle piece or even a fitting puzzle piece into what the Nuggets needed to move forward as a true championship contender. Does he have the talent to be able to adjust and correct? I think so. But you haven't done it in 4 years. So why would I sit here and continue to hope for a change when what you've shown me is such that change is not going to happen? What's that old saying? Believe and trust what people show you. Don't make it out to create something in your mind that's not there. If somebody shows you who they are, believe that's who they are. Russ has shown us who he is. So why people believe he's all of a sudden going to get consistent and give you 15, 20 points a game on 40% shooting?
Oh, we don't need,
not happening.
And we don't need 15 to 20 points a game. We just need to do like 8, 20, rebound, give him a couple assists. Like, that's what we need. We don't need him to be more than what he, we just don't need that right now. And again, the last 3 games, he's played pretty damn good. Not amazing, but pretty good. So, we'll see.
Look, I think your biggest thing is empty stats, and you hate empty stats. Russ Westbrook gives you a lot of empty stats that people have a hard time looking through.
He can.
Empty stats in basketball are a lot bigger glaring issue than they are in football, because empty stats in football can create comebacks, and they can create situations where, yeah, he threw for a lot of yards, but that's because they were down really big. But all of a sudden they're back in the game or they win the game. In basketball, empty stats truly are you're playing in a situation where that game is out. And you're putting up numbers where they do not matter anymore. And Russ is going to give you a lot of those this year. And Pinky, you can back me up here. There is nobody out there who would be more willing to eat all the crow that exists for being wrong about Russell Westbrook than I am. I hope I'm insanely wrong about this. I would love nothing more than to be all wrong about the Wessel Westbrook situation. I'm just not. I'm not.
I just feel like we're going to be. I think we're going to be somewhere in the middle.
Nah.
I think it's not going to be like completely trash.
If the Nuggets are smart, they're going to figure out how to move him as part of a deal to acquire actual talent. That's what they should be hoping. They should be hoping he plays well enough that they can move him for an actual piece that matters.
But I think we can both agree that Booth's probably not that talented to make something like that happen. So we'll just go ahead and eat that. So, all right, enough depressing basketball talk.
Wait, I wanted to say one other thing.
Oh gosh, okay.
Sorry. And I think this is a big deal. I feel like we're going to touch on this a little bit. Maybe we won't. Maybe we won't at all. As far as the football kind of similar story is concerned, if we don't, that's fine. But there was a story that came out with Joel Embiid, and I do feel like it requires a conversation. There was a reporter
issue or whatever.
There was a reporter, I believe it's Marcus Hayes is the name. He did a story and basically tried to talk about, for lack of a better way of explaining it, Embiid and why he's not good and this, that, and the other, and so on and so forth, and try to basically bring Embiid down. This reporter decided to include,
but he went
for those reasons, he decided to include Embiid's deceased brother and his 3-year-old son.
Yeah.
Trash. The dude is trash for bringing it to that level. There is zero reason why you bring that into a story in any shape, way, or form. Embiid confronted him in the locker room when this guy showed up, ended up shoving him as part of the, we'll call it, conversation that the two had. And Embiid is now being suspended 3 games because of this. I cannot stand trash journalism. Cannot stand it. I do believe there's a standard that these journalists and these reporters should be held to. That dude should be banned from the locker room. And if I'm the Sixers, I'm taking it a step further. He is not allowed to ask any questions in any media session for the year. And then we'll reconvene at the season's end. This dude should not be allowed to have any access within the 76ers organization. Period. That's how I feel about it. And they need to be held to a higher standard as a journalist. And the fact that he's not being talked about as being reprimanded or having his access pulled, I think is a complete joke.
Well, never mind.
Nope. I'm going to add this, and I'm going to add in the Jason Kelce situation.
That's what I was...
Because I feel like they're kind of similar. At the end of the day, at this moment, as a society, there are too many people that feel like they can say what they want to say to your face, they can say what they want to say behind a keyboard, and they are not afraid of getting punched in the face.
Well, listen, I mean, I'm sorry,
you're right.
But I mean, absolutely, but that's part of the situation is now I don't want to say confidence because that's not the exact word I want to use.
Bravado?
Sure, yes, bravado is an excellent term, Caleb. Is that
Bravado's
they have the
a good one.
bravado be able to walk up and say these things without being reprimanded or having to deal with the repercussions of said issue. And I mean, I'm not one to condone violence by any means, but when you are pressing the envelope of someone of that caliber, I don't know what else you're going to expect. Like, I'm sorry, but like if you're going up one of the best centers in the entirety of the NFL, like, I'm sorry, you deserve to get your fucking teeth knocked out.
Well, that had nothing to do with like who he's going against. It's
no.
He's literally putting out homophobic slurs about his brother for no reason.
And I am the person who comes of the opinion, like, defend your family, and that is a situation like you're gonna stand up and do what you feel is necessary. In that situation, when you're being talked down to and things like that by your own family members, that kid deserved it.
That kid's lucky he didn't get punched in the face.
Absolutely. I have always been and always will be a big believer in sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Words only have power when you give them power. I refuse to believe otherwise. They only have power if you give them power. Now, I understand certain words are specifically made to belittle someone, but it only belittles if you allow it to belittle. If you show that person that that word is not going to have any effect on you, that person just lost all their power that they thought they had. That all being said, I also have no issues with what Embiid did or what Kelsey did. What Embiid did is, as far as I'm concerned, is he defended his family. You do not bring family into a situation where you're talking about sports and why somebody's not successful on a court. You don't do it.
110%. You don't.
With the Kelsey situation, the reason I'm okay with what Kelsey did, while I expect better from him, I'm not mad at what he did. And that's because that kid, that disrespectful young man, that immature individual, that ignorant individual, he said it more than once. He repeated it multiple times while Kelsey was walking, to the point where he was trying to instigate. He was trying to get Kelsey's attention, and then he finally got it. If he had just said it the one time, I fully believe Jason Kelsey would have kept walking. He didn't, though. He followed him and yelled it multiple times. So Kelsey stopped, turned around, and did what he did. Kelsey came out and apologized, and he said exactly what I would hope he would say. I live by the golden rule, and I expect better from myself. It was a moment of weakness. I could have handled it differently, and he could have. He could have pulled out his phone and started videotaping the kid, gone on live or whatever, and said, repeat it. Say it again. No. You don't want to say it now? Say it again. Hey, somebody else, let's say what he said. Let's put him on blast. Let's make him social media famous for what he said and end him. Similar to what happened with was it the Eagles fan that punched the dudes in the face? Ravens. That's right, the Ravens fan. That dude's now going to serve jail time for what he did. Hate speech is hate speech. Had Kelsey handled it ever so slightly different, that dude would have been kicked out of Penn State. He would have, the university would have easily revoked his ability to go to school there. So that's why I'm so big on sticks and stones. May break my bones, but words will never hurt me. If you're able to, and I'm not saying I'm even capable of it all the time, but my thought process is if you're able to do such, long term, the person in the wrong will suffer bigger consequences because of that. When you go towards the violence, it usually gives that person an out. And that's the last thing you want to do in those situations. And again, I'm not trying to say I would have handled it any differently, okay? I'm just saying the big picture idea, what we would like to see everybody be able to do is allow those things to happen in those situations to where you're able to put the person on blast rather than resort to violence to handle it, because the majority will then be able to side with the right. And there is a right and wrong. It's just whether or not you're able to definitively draw those lines. And when you do something in retaliation, rather than to bring light to the situation, that retaliation can blur the line of right and wrong. And that's the unfortunate part. Because I don't know about you guys, but I haven't even been able to see anything that says that kid's name yet. And if Jason had handled that differently, that kid's name would have been on blast that night.
Real quick.
So
absolutely.
Again, not mad at what Embiid or Kelsey did. I completely understand, and I don't denounce what they did. Was it justified? I don't know if I want to go that far, but it's real close to a justifiable act.
I just think we need to get we need to get back to people remembering, like, you know what? If I say something really stupid and I'm going out of my way to try to get attention from someone, I might get my ass beat. And again, like I think there's not enough people out there in the world that are scared of getting their ass beat.
You're
And maybe
right.
that's
I mean,
because
the
they haven't.
keyboard warrior mentality has definitely spilled over into real life.
I can be honest. I've gotten punched in the face. I don't like it.
Nope.
It's not my favorite thing.
Nope.
So I don't want to get punched in the face. So I'm not gonna go say stupid shit to somebody. I'm gonna we're gonna be chill. And again, I mean, I don't like putting that out in the universe anyway. So it's just one of those things that I wouldn't do. But like, there's just too many people willing to go out of their way to say stupid stuff to someone, and just thinking, I'm just gonna be a troll. I'm just gonna be a troll. It's funny. I'm a troll.
You're right. You're right. I
mean,
just think had they both reacted differently, and I'm still mad at the Sixers for not just revoking the reporter's credentials. Like, that should be all over social media, everywhere. You should see reporter's credentials revoked.
Nope, I'm not gonna. No, Caleb, I'm not gonna.
Say it. What are you thinking?
So listen, it hasn't just been in sports. It's been across a lot of different media points. There's been a lot of different lines that have been crossed by journalists.
Oh yeah,
recently, and there's a point where the alternative also needs to be discussed. There is a point of journalism bias and media bias, of overreaching and overstepping, and you do not have the power of the world to encroach on these things. And there is a level of respect, personally, I think, that has been lost in communication over the years in sports media communication, and I mean, I guess just not sports media, but media as a whole, of how things are received from the respective parties. And I'm sorry, but as a journalist, you have a certain responsibility. And that responsibility is also to respect that individual's space and time. And if you're going to encroach on that, you're not a journalist. You're now a harasser.
If you're a true journalist, there are ways to tell the story and tell it in its entirety while still being able to omit certain situations or points.
And for that journalist,
could Embiid be playing poorly or having a rough time because the death of his brother and because he's got a 3-year-old son and all these things? Yes. But there would be a way to say that without specifically bringing the family into the fold.
Look, the family has nothing to do with his just injury issues that he continues to deal with throughout his career.
Yeah.
It's not like if he was out there playing poorly, then I can see like maybe these things are an issue.
But then you say it as there are external factors that he's dealing with. You don't say his dead brother is causing him to not play. There's no reason to say that. There's zero reason to bring that up. Or if it's something you feel the need that it is pertinent to the story, you know what you do as a good journalist? You go to the person and talk about it with them. Hey, look, man, I feel like this might be something that you know is going on. Like, talk to me about it a little bit. How are you feeling? What's going on? Talk off record first. Have a conversation with somebody. True journalists back in the day were able to build those relationships, to have those conversations, to where if they were reported on, everybody knew and was good with it. Another great example that's going on right now, and it's not even on the same level as these two stories, but it's an ongoing feud, really, and it's Stephen A. Smith and Kevin Durant.
Yep.
And Stephen A. Smith continues to call out Kevin Durant for his lack of leadership. And Kevin Durant keeps coming back saying, this dude's a clown. He's not in the locker room. I've never seen him at one of our practices. He has no idea what he's talking about. No sources to talk to. And yet he keeps saying the same thing. And then Stephen A. keeps coming back saying, he's just soft. Of all the things to call Kevin Durant soft for, I don't know how you say he's not a leader when he's been in the league as long as he has, and he has the respect that he has in the entire league, not just his teammates, but within the entire league. To say he's not a leader because you don't hear him talking publicly is foolish. But Stephen A. is all about clickbait. He's all about a hot take. He's all about driving
So
eyes to the screen. And if he can continue to do that by knocking somebody else, he will.
now I will say, at least in Stephen A's defense, Kevin Durant may be one of the greatest players of all time, but still doesn't have that like Jordan, Kobe, like that over the top. Like I just don't get that.
But
that
how many
guy,
people do? How many people do?
I know.
BB? And
But
let's take it another step.
I think that's
take a
kind
step
of where
further.
Stephen A is looking. That
Yeah, but this is where, at least for me, he loses all credibility on the subject. He will continue to say, which is not what I think, he will continue to say that Kevin Durant was the best player on those Warriors championship teams. I still think it's Steph. I still believe Steph is a better player than Kevin Durant. But he will say Kevin Durant was the best player on that team, but then he'll turn around and say Kevin Durant is a bandwagoner. He's not the bus driver. He's not a leader. But then he'll say he's the best player on the team. You don't get to speak out of both sides of your mouth in the same conversation like that.
I think it could be true that Kevin Durant is a great player, great teammate, great locker room presence, and not a great leader.
I don't know how you can be all of those things and then not be a leader.
It's possible he's not a leader. And again, some people think it's okay if they lead by example. You hear that a lot in the NFL. I'm not a rah-rah guy. I'm not a pump my guys up. I just do my job. I do my work, and I lead by example. But we want more, right? Now, again, Stephen A. being the journalist, not in the locker room, isn't going to see all the other things that Kevin Durant does that could be considered leadership behind the scenes. He just sees what's on the court. And on the court, you might say he's not a leader. But during practice, in the locker room, helping the young guys, all that, he could be a leader, right? So, again, probably not what you should attack Kevin Durant for. Like, that just seems like, again, what are you trying to do? But again, Stephen A., as we all know, he likes to have his name out there. He likes to come up with crazy stuff. Because, again, at the end of the day, these guys, Colin Cowherd, Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharp to some regards, Stephen A., they have to say some crazy stuff to keep their name out there. And that's just how that works for them. You love them or you hate them.
It's funny you bring up Colin Cowherd because at least I know a lot of people don't like the guy. But I will say of all of those names, I feel like, one, he's the most consistent as far as holding to a take. And two, I feel like he's the most, I don't know if genuine's the right word, but I do feel like he doesn't follow any norms or
I guess
bandwagon type things. He comes up with a thought. He has a feeling. He has a take, if you will, and he will give you a reason for why he has it, and he will stick to that.
Colin Cowherd was probably the wrong name. Nick Wright was probably the guy I should have named.
Nick Wright's a good example. I think Cowherd's a good example. There's a lot of people who think he's a hot take specialist. And maybe it's just personal view, I don't see him as that type, along with the Skip Bayless, the Stephen A's, the Nick Wright is a good one. I think he just truly gives you a thought and a take, and then just gives you some reasons why, and then just he doesn't back away from it until proven wrong.
What's really funny is Robert has no idea who we're talking about.
Nope.
That's because he listens to nerd videos and all these other things that are happening in trailers and all that nerd stuff.
I find it funny because when we talk about some of this and then Caleb's posting some of the comic book stuff online, I'm like, yeah, it's because I went in and I'm like, this is what we need to add and talk about other things.
If there's comic book stuff or anything, it's posted because I enjoy it too, my guy.
Oh, I know, but I had to physically add them into our feed for you to see.
We already had a ton. We already had a ton on there.
All right.
No.
We've got to move on.
We did too. No. I'm not.
Comicbook.com, Star Wars Underworld. I went in manually like.
No, comicbook.com was already on there. Thank you very much. There was already two Star Wars feeds. There was already Oh shoot! What's the
Nope.
other one? I had
Nope.
6 or 7 that were already mainstays on there. Guaranteed.
I'll plug myself back into the Matrix and
Oh.
rewind this shit to prove
All
it.
right.
But anyway,
Go for
All
it.
right.
Go for it.
We got to move on a little bit.
we got to get to the NFL.
Before we talk
think
the
you
NFL,
said
I
2
have one
hours.
last thing. One last thing. Let's go, baby. It's all about the U. It's all about the U.
Pinky, no.
We are so lucky. Cam Ward is awesome, and I'm so sad we're only going to have him for one season. He's playing some really good football.
You know how you feel about when Caleb talks about Nebraska? This is how we feel about when you talk about Miami.
I don't. Respect where respect's due. Miami's a top 12 team. They're in the playoffs. They're looking like they're going to win the ACC. I'm glad you brought it up. So I did want to discuss very briefly the first ranking for the very first ever 12-team playoff came out tonight. There are 2 things that caught my eye in the top 25. I think there's 2 linchpins right now that could really mess things up for some people. And that is SMU, which is playing really good ball right now and could find a way to ruin Miami's plans as the ACC champ. I'm not saying it's likely or going to happen. I'm just saying there is possibilities here that you should pay attention to. And SMU and the ACC and Miami, that's a linchpin that could change things drastically. And I think the other linchpin, and people don't want to hear this, and people want to talk down on it, and they're going to say, we're just living on the prime. I'm a Nebraska fan. If we haven't made that clear, saying anything good about Colorado is not in my DNA. But Colorado is the other linchpin that could really mess things up within the Big 12. If they continue to win and they get to that championship game, I do believe they're a better team than BYU. I do think they could beat BYU. So Colorado and SMU right now, SMU is 13th. They're just on the outside looking in already. And Colorado is 20th. But they find a way to the Big 12 championship. If they win that, they're an automatic bid in, regardless of where they were ranked before that. Those are the 2 big linchpins that I'm looking at right now, kind of playing out the long-term game of the season and saying those 2 are very interesting things that could move a lot of pieces.
That is true. Now, I will say at the moment, again, this is all fluid. Things are going to change.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to change. It's going to happen. But, God, why can I not find the bracket? I'm seeing the rankings. I want the bracket. All I know is Miami would they would make it in as it stands today, but they play the winner of Alabama, Texas. They would hope for Texas to win in that case. Alabama would probably smoke Miami.
Texas might be better than Alabama.
I don't know if they are. I don't know if they are.
That's up for debate, but it's right there. I will say this. You mentioned Cam Ward. Right now, by most odd sites, Cam Ward and Travis Hunter are now tied for the Heisman odds. I will continue to say this. I continue to get beat up for it. Shedeur Sanders is still the best quarterback in college football. Cam Ward is insanely good.
Do you know why?
I think he can be very good in the NFL. I still think Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in college football.
I'm going to ask Robert this question. Robert, can you tell me why people are rating Cam Ward over Shedeur Sanders as the number 1 quarterback in the nation right now?
My main guess would be that it's because of wins.
Nope.
Then
because when they're evaluating quarterback talent, they're not. It's not about wins or losses, because they're looking for what can this guy do in the NFL. It's attitude. They don't like Shedeur Sanders' attitude.
But he's also
They don't like the
Like-
name across the back of the jersey is what it comes down
Listen,
to.
all right, you know what? I won't disagree with that at all, Caleb. But at the end of the day, like, you do have to take it for what it's worth at face value. I mean, Shedeur Sanders acts like a pretty pompous asshole. Like,
No, he
he is
doesn't.
a child. Oh, bullshit. He absolutely acts like a pompous child.
I fully
Caleb-
disagree. He
I
acts
don't.
like a very confident young man who backs up his skills on the field. People don't like
Bullshit.
confidence, so they call it cocky.
He's
Bullshit.
he's got some arrogance that turns a lot of people off. I love it.
The amount of
I
times
love
he has
it.
walked off the field and bullshit for this, like, man.
But he does have that arrogance, Caleb. He really does.
If you talk the talk and you walk the walk, it's not
He-
cocky, it's confidence. If
He's
you
walking
talk
the
it
walk
and
like
you don't back
80%
it
of
up,
the time.
no. If you talk it and you can't back it up, it's cocky. If you talk it and you can back it up, it's confidence. People don't like hearing that, but that's the fact of the matter.
80%
I've
of the
always
time,
believed that.
he's doing it. Sure. 80% of the time. 80%. I will
That
not
dude's
give
balled
him.
out continuously. They have not lost because of him. They have
Bullshit.
won because of him.
No.
They have not lost because of him. It's a fine line, and I'm not going to deny that. But that has been my attitude since
Look,
I was a very young man. That if
I
you
like-
talk it and back it up, it's confidence. If
I
you
like
talk it and
Shedeur.
you don't, it's cocky.
I like Shedeur. I think he's awesome. I do
His
think he
dad
has
was the same way. People
think he
hated
has
on
a-
Dion. They didn't like Dion being in your face.
I-
They didn't
I
like
think
him saying
he-
this, that, and the other. But
What-
Dion
hang on.
always backed it up.
Hang
I think
on.
he rubs people the wrong way.
Personally,
and-
honestly,
Take it a step
Right.
further real quick. By all accounts, he's loved in the locker room.
sure. But you know what, Caleb? I'll be honest with you. With all the
Oh,
takes that are happening right now,
whoa.
I don't think he's going to be a top 5 pick. I don't think he goes in the top 5.
The only reason that doesn't happen is because somebody in the top 5 doesn't need a quarterback.
But again, I do not think he will be top 5.
Well, he may not go top 5 because they literally say we are not going to go to this team, and that team. Okay, we'll go to team 6. Like, we'll go there. We're not going anywhere. We're not going those teams because he still has eligibility and he's still making $5,000 in college.
He just said, was it today or yesterday? He's going to the league.
He's declaring. No,
He
that
just
was, that,
he just flat
declared.
out told the people came to enroll them for spring classes, and he flat out said, "I'm not signing up for anything. I'll be in the league." So he's definitely going in the draft.
Well, then he limits some of his options.
He might. Now, Pinky, I know that there are some players who have come out against Shedeur and Dion. At this point, look, I gotta believe that they just couldn't get it done. Because
The word is there's some cliques that love Shedeur and there's some cliques that don't. That's all that's been reported. Who knows?
that was
what's
last
going
year.
on, but-
That was off-season stuff. I haven't heard any of that since the season started. He's come out and protected his offensive line. He came out within a press conference and said, offensive line's good. We don't have a problem there. That was on me. He took responsibility and ownership.
Look, I will say, and you and I don't agree on a whole lot. Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in college football. If Shedeur Sanders played for Georgia, they would not even be close to losing the game. If he played for Alabama, they'd be smoking. If he played for name top Power 5 school, Texas, Oregon, whoever, they would be smoking. His O-line has played better this year than last year. They've actually gotten better throughout the season. They've done a better job protecting him as the season has gone on, as they've gelled and gotten better. But if he was behind some of those teams with the wide receivers those teams have, it would be over.
Yeah. And we've talked about Travis Hunter. We won't even go there.
He does
Dude's
have
a
one of the
beast.
best receivers in the country in Travis Hunter. The rest of the guys are good, but they're not on the same level as some of the other schools that, wide receivers they have. So it's a whole different conversation. All right. So again, I'm happy about the U. That Duke game had me worried for a while, but they pulled it out. They ended up winning them by over 20. So that was good. And
hey, at least your team can play offense. That's got to feel good.
Well, right now, Miami has probably the best offense in the country at the moment. But Cam Ward's Cam Ward's playing really awesome.
Hey.
He'll make some dumb plays though. He will make
Pinky.
some dumb plays.
If you take your team's offense and my guy's defense, you might have the best team in the country.
Yeah, Miami just lost another corner to injury, so they're going to struggle when they play some of the big dogs. But as long as they get into the dance, sometimes I will say, if Miami does, it's not going to happen. So this is not. If Miami wins the championship, I would put a Miami tattoo on the opposite side of my Jayhawks tattoo, and I'd put the really cool,
the duck.
The duck, yeah. The Miami Duck, or I don't even know what he is.
How a duck became a hurricane mascot is I don't. But hey, cool.
He's cool though. I like him.
Yeah.
I like him.
Nothing against it.
I'd get him doing this. Like it'd be awesome. So, all right, boys. NFL time. Caleb, trade deadline. You want to talk about?
Run with it. I mean I think the two biggest moves today would be Zadarius Smith going to the Lions and Marshawn Lattimore going to Washington. I would say those are the two biggest moves, but there were some other. I mean, if we're being honest, this was a slightly more active trade deadline than normal, but there wasn't a ton of huge names that moved places.
I would say that there was more activity prior to the deadline than normal. And then the deadline, there were a couple moves. I mean, normally on the deadline, it's completely dead.
Yeah.
So we
there
actually
were a lot
did
of
get
little
some more
moves.
moves.
Jonathan Mingo to the Cowboys. I don't hate the move. I know Pinky's not quite a fan of it.
I just, for the Cowboys, I'm like, you're giving up a 4th-round pick for a young guy. He hasn't done much in Carolina. You could have got Adams for a 3rd. You could have got Hopkins for a 5th.
Aging in big contracts versus true potential and a rookie deal. I think Mingo could be a solid number 2, maybe even a 1A. That was kind of the talk of him coming out of college. Look, this is what I'll say. I don't think you can evaluate anybody in Carolina based on what they did in Carolina. Carolina had Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold on the same team. Look what those two are doing right now in the league.
That's fair. Fair.
I think another interesting move is Khalil Herbert to the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he's been underrated and underused in Chicago.
Absolutely.
For whatever reason. You go put him with Chase Brown, and you got a solid 1-2 combo in the backfield now. Both dudes can block. Both dudes can run. Both dudes can catch the ball. The issue with that, though, is offense wasn't the Bengals' problem. So adding another running back while you got him for the good deal wasn't necessarily where you needed to make a move.
Bengals defense, as they've gotten their defensive lineman back, has been better.
It has. I'm just saying, Is it a good move? Yes. Was it necessarily the move that moves your needle in the right direction? I don't know.
You don't usually see a lot of defenders traded, and you don't see a lot of O-linemen traded at the trade deadline.
Right.
That just doesn't happen for whatever reason.
Lions grabbing Zadarius Smith, while it's not a splash move, it's a smart move. It's a need move that only helps. It doesn't detract.
They've still done okay without Aiden.
Yeah.
But this gives them, if one of their somewhat semi-pass rushers got hurt, you still got Zadarius Smith, right? If one of their pass rushers got hurt right now, they'd be like really hurt.
Yeah, it would be. That's why I'm saying it's not a splash move, but it's a smart move. It's a depth move. It is a move that will help shore up the defense.
I will say, when I watched the Lions-Viking games 2 weeks ago, there was a noticeable difference in the Lions defense. But then going from that game 2 weeks ago to the last 2 games, they definitely have shown improvement to withstand without
You're probably going to see a little bit more blitz, like a little bit more 5-man pressure than 4-man.
And I am very excited for Zadarius Thomas to come over to Detroit and seeing what happens there. And I think personally, in any case, even without the addition of Za'Darius, the Lions are the team to beat in the NFC. Period. I don't see anyone else really rising to the challenge right now outside of it being the Commanders. Just because the Commanders are feeling it, they're driving, and they're good. But I still think at the end of the day, if Commanders and the Lions go at it, Lions are going to trump them. I personally think that the Lions are just going to decimate. I'll be
All
clear.
right, so I'm going to tell you.
I said decimate, not dominate. Caleb, take notes.
Hold on. Robert, I'm going to be very honest with you. And I love the Lions. I'm rooting for the Lions. The Lions have one team they do not want to see in the Super Bowl. Can you name that team?
I mean, it would have to be the Chiefs. I
Nope.
can't think of
Nope.
who.
Caleb? Baltimore.
They do not want to see Baltimore in the playoffs.
Okay, I could see that.
And why is that, Pinky? Because it's something you and I preach. Trenches and...
Well, again, Detroit's very good on the offensive line. Their defensive line is not as good. And Lamar and Derrick Henry will put stress on your defensive line. Every single play. It will happen. I think the Lions would be more than happy to see the Bills or the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
I will disagree with you there. The Bills, I think, are being drastically underrated, but I think there's a reason. There's still the consistency needs to show up a couple more weeks, and I think people start putting them on that same level. The Chiefs, though, I think, at least for me, watching that game last night, the Chiefs are starting to figure it out. And I do believe they're the best defense in the league right now overall. And if that offense truly starts clicking like we saw glimpses of last night, I think a lot more people are going to be concerned.
I don't know, man. I don't know. The Chiefs gave up 24 points to an offense that was down their top three receivers.
If there's one thing we've learned in the NFL, Pinky, is we eat a lot of crow when it comes to our projections for win-losses, right? Every year, and we're good with that. But there's always going to be those games, for whatever reason, even the really good teams trip up. And I know you guys laugh at me and you don't agree with me when I say the Chiefs' dominance. But when you continue to find ways to win, regardless of the situation, I don't care what you say. That is a level of dominance. Doesn't matter how you win. If you keep finding ways to do it, it is a level of dominance that people are going to have to respect. And I think the league does. I think the league does when it comes to the Chiefs. I mean, what else would you call it? What else do you call that when a team continues to win?
They're really good at knowing situational football.
I think it's just winning. It's not dominance, but we're just winning.
But again, they had to go to overtime with a Bucs team that didn't have their top three wide receivers that the Broncos whooped with their top three wide receivers. So again, I still feel like there's this.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a perfect example of what I just said. What did the Broncos do this weekend against what you said was a bad defense?
I didn't say it was a bad defense. They just played the pass poorly.
Well, you said it wasn't a good defense. You didn't use bad. You said they weren't playing well.
Hey, the Broncos and Bo Nix were 17-10. And then the defense gave up a touchdown with 26 seconds left to Zay Flowers because the safety didn't cover Zay Flowers and then didn't tackle him either. And then the next thing you know, when Bo Nix gets back on the field, it's 31-10. Like that was the defense giving up control of that game, not the offense. So again, like
offense could score on what was supposed to be not a good defense. Like, I mean, I'm just saying the NFL has a crazy way of doing things week to week that we didn't see coming.
Matchups matter. I don't think the Lions want to see the Ravens. Period. I do think the Lions would be better matchup-wise against the Chiefs or the Bills. But at the end of the day, if you get the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, then you do have to worry about, again, we have to play. Our margin for error is very low. We can't make mistakes. We can't make turnovers. We have to play really good, sound football to beat the Chiefs. You got to do those things, right? That's just what you got to do to beat them. Obviously, no one's done that yet. The Chiefs have played in a lot of close games. No one's beat them yet. So, again, it just comes back to that. Now, trade deadline. I think there was a lot of moves made this year. Kind of, I don't know, kind of weird overall. I don't really understand. I think the Cowboys are toast. I don't understand giving up anything for Mingo. He's not going to help your season at all. You're going to have Cooper Rush or Trey Lance playing. I'd probably play Trey Lance. I would. You traded for him for a reason. He needs to play. But I don't. Yeah, the Cowboys are done. They're toast.
They're garbage. Hot garbage. Dumpster fire garbage. Everything's fine garbage.
I will say, look, why are you not playing Trey Lance? Like, he showed enough, I do believe, in San Francisco before he got hurt that there was what could be projected as a solid growth curve. Would have he been spectacular? I won't go that far. But the dude's got more talent than Cooper Rush. So why would you not put him out there in this situation? You can always go to Cooper Rush. You can always go that direction.
Cooper Rush is a long-term backup in this league, making money.
Why would you not give Trey Lance an opportunity? That's wild to me.
Have they decided who the quarterback is this week?
He's already been announced. Cooper Rush has already been announced as the starter.
Yeah. Trey Lance was traded for just to put whatever fire behind Dak you could put behind him.
I don't get it, man. And look, Pinky, you know I talk about this all the time. Square peg, round hole. Guys get stale. They don't keep up with the times. They don't innovate. They're not imaginative, whatever you want to call it. The offense Mike McCarthy is running in Dallas, I'll say this. It's very similar to what I'm seeing in Nebraska right now. You can basically predict the play as they're lining up at the line of scrimmage before they snap the ball. If you're doing that, you're gonna lose. Period.
I'm pretty sure McCarthy gave up play calling duties though.
It's still his offense.
It hasn't worked.
Regardless, it's still his offense.
But his offense actually works when you can run the ball. And what did they do?
They're not even trying to run the ball, though. They're not even trying to. Like, even if you don't have a stud at running back, you still have to run the ball consistently to keep the defense honest. They're not even doing that.
So
everybody talking about, like, Dak ain't worth the money, this, that, and the other. I believe, and I know you're not quite on the same page, but you're close, so it's not like we completely disagree with this. Dak is a top 10 quarterback in the league. You want to put him at 10? Fine. I'm not going to be mad at that. I think we went through this. You had him at like 11 or 12. So kind of right on the outside looking in. They were the number one offense last year, were they not? Or they were right there?
I can at least get on the point that I think he's above average. He could be in that top 10 given the right pieces around him. But right now that O-line's not amazing. They can't run the ball effectively. And really, if CeeDee Lamb is double covered, what else do they have?
Right. But again, that's not, what is the GM and coach's job? The GM's job is to put actual talent on the field. The coach's job is to put that talent in positions to succeed. Dallas ain't done either one of those things.
Dallas
So,
just keeps sucking.
It's really funny. My boss is a Cowboys fan. He's a Dallas fan all around. And we were meeting up this week, and I was just like, I can tell you something of why the Cowboys cannot be good this year. And he was completely shocked by my message. I said, the Cowboys can't be good because you can't have the Stars and the Mavericks good and the Cowboys in the same year. It's not allowed. It's not allowed to happen. Somebody's got to suck. You can't have all three. So
Damn, Pinky just goes for the throat. Like, that's it. Damn.
Oh,
She's like, if you're gonna suck, it's gonna be in football.
And again, he knew. He was a realist. If you talk to a Cowboys realist, not one of the fans who think this is our year every year, you talk to a realist, they knew. We've got McCarthy, who's a dead man walking. We've got to pay Dak. We got to pay CD. We got to pay Micah. And they're not willing to do anything else around him. For a owner that has a pretty good amount of money, Jones really cheap. He keeps coming. He the last time, so reporters started getting on him about Derrick Henry after the Ravens blasted the Cowboys, right? The following week, he brought up Derrick Henry without being asked about him. How much are the Ravens paying Derrick Henry this year?
$9 million.
7.
Oh, 7.
Are you telling me that you couldn't find $7 million to pay Derrick Henry?
I mean, you know how I feel about that situation. No, it's a complete joke. Let's take it a step further. And I heard this today on Get Up, and Mike Greenberg, who has some wild thoughts sometimes, but I always understand where he's coming from. He doesn't just give things for a hot take. He literally has a deep thought process on why. And this one, while a lot of people poo-pooed on it, I think is very similar to why I feel the Broncos should move on from Surtain. Not because he's not a great player, but because of value and get back and things of that nature. He brought up the idea that Dallas should trade Micah Parsons. And the major reason for that was, if you don't, you're going to have to pay him. If you pay him, you are basically tying up 90% of your salary to Dak, CD, and Micah Parsons. So 90% roughly of your salary is going to go to 3 dudes, and you have to fill out another 50 spots on that roster. How are you going to be competitive? How are you going to be able to build an actual contender in that scenario? It's a good thought process. Would Dallas ever do it? No. But it is something that should be given serious consideration, and I do not disagree with him.
I'm not going to say that he's an idiot. There is merit to that idea and conversation. I don't know. Man, they just... Man, it sucks when you draft CeeDee Lamb, there's Justin Jefferson and there's CeeDee Lamb. Those are the best 2 wide receivers from that draft class, and they could both be argued as top 3 wide receivers in the league.
Yeah.
Right now. And again, Micah Parsons can be argued, when healthy, could be one of the best defensive players in the league.
Absolutely.
And then you've got Dak. And we've talked about it. Everybody's talked about it. You got to have some balls to tell Dak, I'm not giving you $60 million a year. I'm just not doing it.
But it's not just that. It's the way they do business. They let everybody else sign a contract first, and then they sign at the highest market value instead of setting the market. They could have avoided all of these issues if they had gone out and set the market rather than paid for the market.
They probably pay less if they did it first, before T-Law, before Tua, before
Joe Burrow.
No, Burrow signed.
You could, but that's what I mean. You could have gone a year ago and got the deal done instead of waiting for the deal to end and then starting a new one. Why are you always playing out the deal to the end? Like, there's so many things that the way they do business is just backwards and wrong. And that's what kills them. Jerry, to his defense, has been really good in the draft. But that's also been their Achilles heel because they don't move on from the guys that they draft or allow them to leave. A lot of times they overpay that, and then they wait until the very end to then pay what the new market is rather than set the market. So there's so many stepping stones within that process that they just do wrong.
Right.
And I mean, like, at the end of the day, we all know that Jerry Jones needs to be removed as an owner for Dallas to be good again. Like, that's just no question. He's holding back the organization from being successful. You can't be all in and not do anything about it. Dude, you suck. You suck. You are one of the worst teams in the NFL right now.
They look bad right now. They look bad. Now,
they look like they shouldn't even be playing college football.
Well,
they are garbage.
It's been bad.
And
I will say, you can still be owner. Just let the people that you hired to do the jobs actually do the jobs now instead of you doing all of them.
Well, but
like,
then
take
again,
a step back.
So I guess in this case, would you say McCarthy would be able to make better decisions right now, or would you say just cut them loose and start over fresh?
Oh, McCarthy needs to go. I would let Steven, his son.
So how many more weeks do we give
football.
this man? How many more weeks does McCarthy have? I give him like 2, maybe 3.
He's going to finish the season. Jerry doesn't fire dudes mid-season. Jerry does not fire guys mid-season. McCarthy will finish the season out. It's who they bring. He's a dead man walking. They didn't renew his contract. They didn't give him an extension. This is the final year of his deal. McCarthy will be done at the end of this year. The question is, who do they bring in next? And on top of that, it's not even who do you bring in next. It's do you actually finally make the moves to put the talent that you need on the field to allow whoever you bring in next to be successful? There's so many moving pieces in Dallas right now that is the reason I'm okay with even talking about the Cowboys is because it is such a unique and interesting situation. It really is. There's nothing else like it in the NFL. So I
don't think
like
there's anything else
talking
like
about
it in sports.
I don't see any coach coming into this situation being able to help them be successful.
Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, I think, could make the team better.
Bill Belichick and Jerry Jones, dude, that shit is not happening. No. You tell me you put the two of them in a room and they're going to get along?
Yeah. They're friends. They're friends.
Hold on. Jerry would have to take a step back from I'm the reason the Cowboys are winning.
Yes. But it's very similar to, I think that's the one guy Jerry could do that with because he believes he could be the Jimmy Johnson again. But there's more of a mutual respect in that scenario than there was with Jimmy Johnson.
I don't know, man. This roster's pretty. I don't know. I could see it happening.
Steven and Jerry are still going to be GM, right? They're still going to have final say on the roster. And that's why I think it could work. Because for all Belichick's faults, when it comes to X's and O's, there may not be anybody better in NFL history. And I think he proved that by what he was able to do in New England. Those were never, by all accounts, the most talented teams in the league.
No, not at all.
But they were by far the most well-prepared teams in the league. And if you want an example, there is no better example than the Super Bowl play where Malcolm Butler intercepted Russell Wilson. The amount of conversation around that where Bill specifically practiced that leading up to the game and saw that as even a possibility and then was able to tell Butler, if you see this scenario, this is what you have to do to prevent it from happening. To have somebody that well prepared, I don't know that we've ever seen anybody remotely close to that within the NFL. So there's a lot of things that would have to be conceded on both sides for that to work, but I could see it working.
Could better coaching take that roster as currently constructed past the Lions?
No,
the 49ers,
that's not what I'm saying.
The Packers.
But I'm saying Belichick could have this roster in the playoffs still, where I think we're all in the same boat that McCarthy has them dead to rights. They're not getting in the playoffs.
I know, but if you're going to bring
McCarthy
Belichick...
is ill-prepared. Like, it's been proven time again. The dude does not have his team prepared for scenarios ever.
Look, I'm not a McCarthy fan at all. But they have quite a few injuries.
They do. I'm not going to deny any of that.
And he was not... McCarthy's offense is predicated around running the football. And he was given Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle.
Again, don't disagree. I don't disagree. But maybe I just look at it as similar to the Sean Payton situation. And we know how I feel about that. Good coach. Was it the right hire to correct where the ship was heading? Yes. Did it bring stability to the organization? Yes. Is it the guy you want to develop and move you into the future based on what the NFL is now, where it's heading? No, I don't believe either one of those guys is. I think Sean Payton is still very much in the realm of being able to make me eat crow. I don't think McCarthy's going to have anything on my plate that I'm going to be mad about.
I mean, McCarthy's going to be unemployed.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I think this is the biggest thing. If Sean Payton and the Broncos decided to split ways at the end of the season, whether he's fired or they just mutual understanding, would other teams be out there looking to hire him? Yeah, I think there is.
I think Dallas would hire him.
If McCarthy is done at the end of the season, are there other teams out there who are trying to get his services? No. And I think that says a lot.
All right. God, what do we want to talk about?
Well, we can cover some next week's game.
I'll bring up a couple things.
Let's go. Let's roll.
Hesitation.
Oh, where did it go? I don't have it. I thought I had it. Wait. Look, if I remember correctly, we failed ourselves miserably last week when we were talking about the NFL MVP conversation, because to the best of my recollection, we did not mention Jared Goff, and I feel ashamed of us for that.
We did not.
He definitely is in the conversation. We talked about it a bunch off air within our own group chat. Why we did not mention it within the podcast, I have no idea, and I apologize to Lions fans, to Jared Goff, to just the NFL MVP conversation, because it's a disservice to leave him out of it.
He has a perfect game this season.
Hold on, real quick on that. Do you know who has the 3 best odds for MVP right now?
No.
Josh Allen,
Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff.
Nope. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes.
Ew, that's gross. That's
Patrick
stupid.
Mahomes has 11 touchdowns, 9 interceptions.
Numbers aren't there, but let's be honest. If it's Carson Wentz and not Patrick Mahomes, are they 8-0? Probably not.
No, definitely not.
Here's what I was looking for. And there's a couple Jared Goff stats. I'm not going to be able to remember the second one completely because I can't find my picture or my post about it. But this is one of them. The Detroit Lions have more touchdowns, 28, than they do incompletions, 24, during this 6-game win streak.
Correct.
Jared Goff has now thrown, I believe it's 300 passes or something like that to Amon-Ra St. Brown without an incompletion. 30. I said 300. 30 straight, I believe is what it is. Jared Goff also has, I can't remember what it is right now. There's another stat with Jared Goff right now during this win streak that they're on that's just absurd, okay? He is balling. He is balling. And LA can't be mad because they traded for Stafford and they won a Super Bowl.
At the end of the day, they got a ring. They're like, great. Long term, what was the issue for Goff in LA? Because I can tell you exactly what it was.
Bring it.
They couldn't protect him.
Yeah.
Goff is one of the most, he won't get credit for it. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks when you protect him.
That's what it was. He's got like an 80% completion percentage right now or something ridiculous.
What do the Lions do? There's 2
protect
ways they
his
protect him
butt.
right now.
They run the ball and they play action.
They run the ball, they play action, and their offensive line gives him a good pocket. When he is pressured, Jared Goff does fold like a chair.
And look, you and I go back and forth on this, and I know where you're coming from, but I always kind of play the devil's advocate. Any quarterback is bad when you don't protect him. But
No,
Jared
that's not
Goff,
true.
and this is where I am trying to support you. So hang on, just stay with me, Pinky, because a roundabout way I'm going to get back to you are correct. Jared Goff by no means has athleticism by NFL standards when it comes to mobility outside of the pocket.
Dude, he's the Detroit Ken.
But dude, when you allow him to stand tall in the pocket, there may not be a better thrower of the football in the league at this moment in time. So, oppose that to Lamar Jackson. And look, I'm going to continue to beat this drum, and I'm going to continue to call people out for it.
Oh, boy.
If you actually watch him play right now, that dude is looking to stay in the pocket and sling the rock more so than he is to try to get outside of the pocket and run the ball. He is a quarterback. There are no other adjectives that need to be added on to that. Lamar Jackson is a quarterback. And to prove it, I'll give you 2 stats. First off,
Just 2?
he now has the most games with a perfect passer rating in NFL history, minimum 15 attempts. The most at 4. That's above Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, Kurt Warner, and everybody else. Lamar Jackson has 4 games of the perfect passer. You don't do that if you're a running quarterback. You only do that if you are a quarterback. A dude who can play the position at its highest level. That's the only way that happens.
I think he's a diva, though, still. I mean, I love Lamar, but
Here's another stat for you with Lamar Jackson. Career games with as many or more passing touchdowns as incompletions in a game. Again, minimum 15 attempts because that's like that base standard that is required for these stats to be counted. Lamar Jackson is tied with Drew Brees and Peyton Manning at 6 games. More touchdowns than incompletions in a game. He is tied with Drew Brees and Peyton Manning, who many will tell you are the 2 greatest throwers of the football in NFL history. You do not do that if you're a running quarterback. So in my mind, and I think Josh Allen is just below these 2, like a hair, like a little hair below these 2. But in my mind, the MVP right now is Lamar Jackson and Jared Goff. Dead even. Flip a coin, and whatever side it comes out on, I'm good with.
I can't even hate that take. It's Josh Allen, it's Lamar, it's Jared Goff. Mahomes, he's got 11 touchdowns, 9 interceptions.
I think he's an MVP for that team. Is he playing at an MVP level compared to others in the league right now? No.
That defense is saving his ass most of the time.
I think it's very similar to Peyton Manning's last year in Denver. It's very similar to Peyton Manning's run in Denver to that Super Bowl. I fully believe that Super Bowl was won by that defense. Yes, don't disagree with that. But if
No,
you didn't have Peyton
that's not
Manning
even
back there
that's
playing
not even
quarterback,
argument.
but hear me out. If that was Brock Osweiler, I don't know if Denver wins that game. Peyton
They don't win
Manning's
that game.
cerebral process to the game and his ability to say, I'm not going to lose this for us because I know what needs to get done, it goes a long way. It's usually unrecognized. While Mahomes' stats aren't great, I do believe there's enough situational football within a game to where he's able to make sure they're staying within the game so their defense can win it for him. So is he arguably the MVP for his team still? Sure. Are his stats such that he's the MVP of the league this year? No. And his odds should not be. Saquon should be above him. Derrick Henry should be above him. Goff, Allen, Jackson. I would even put Baker Mayfield on an MVP ladder over Patrick Mahomes right now, based on what Baker's done this season and what he's now doing even without his top two receivers. So there's nuances to the conversation I think sometimes people don't want to discuss.
So,
and look, you want to play devil's advocate and say, well, yeah, Lamar's got a bunch of weapons. Jared Goff's got a bunch of weapons. Of course they're going to be playing well. No. For a quarterback to be playing well, it means he is getting the ball to those weapons in situations that they're able to show that they're weapons. That means accurate throws, hitting them when they're open on a deep ball, calling the right audibles at the line of scrimmage. They are playing the position at a very high level that I think sometimes goes unrecognized.
I did want to talk a little bit about the rookie QBs. Caleb Williams is struggling.
I mean, duh.
And I don't know if that's his fault completely, but he has more on offense than any of the other QBs have, and yet still not looking very good.
So, look, we had them sneaking into the playoffs because we thought there was a ton of talent there. But I have been consistent with this, and I will continue to be consistent with this. Ryan Poles is not a good GM. He's average at best. He hasn't made any great moves.
I mean, I thought the Montez Sweat move was a good move. He got him. That was a pretty good move, I thought. The defense itself is actually pretty good.
The defense has a lot of talent and is good.
The offensive skill positions.
But here's the problem.
Good. The O-line's not good.
If you pay dudes money, they're going to come. Like, let's just be honest about the situation. If you pay dudes when nobody else is willing to pay them, they're going to come play for you. The biggest move Ryan Poles made was a gift from the Carolina Panthers. And Pinky, you've talked about this a number of times. What the hell was Carolina doing giving up all those picks and DJ Moore? Of course you make that deal. Are you out of your mind? Any GM would have made that deal. Even a bad GM would have made that deal. I will go back and I will say it again, and this is not me being a Justin Fields believer. If your number one wide receiver comes out and says, why are we dropping this guy just to draft somebody else? It's something you should take into serious consideration. It is something you should give a lot of thought to. The second part about that is you have now made the same mistake with 3 separate top first-round picks. You draft a quarterback, and you don't build an offensive line, and you spend the resources somewhere else. That's a bad move, especially in today's NFL. If John Harbaugh hasn't taught anybody anything, they better start paying attention. You build from the trenches out, and you can be very successful very quickly. They didn't put an offensive line around Justin Fields. They didn't put an offensive line in front of Caleb Williams. And you want to go even farther back and look at mistakes. And while this wasn't polls per se, it's still an organizational situation. You keep a bad coach and you draft a quarterback. You keep a bad coach and you draft a quarterback. And then you keep a bad coach and you draft a quarterback. Fox, Trubisky, Nagy, Fields, Eberflus, Williams. You just made the same thing, same mistake 3 times in a row. History repeating itself. If you don't learn from your past mistakes, you will keep making them. Chicago is a train wreck.
Eberflus is getting fired. Who takes that job?
I mean, if I'm a Chicago fan, I'm praying it's Ben Johnson. Because right now, within league circles, that's one of the few guys who you can think may be able to correct the offensive situation. But again, if you're not... Pinky, how much did I pound the table as soon as they made that Rome Odunze pick that was a foolish, wasted pick? Because there were offensive linemen on the board that could have truly helped your situation, and you did not need another wide receiver.
And again, I felt like the Falcons taking Penix instead of Odunze kind of screwed the Bears, because the Bears probably take an O-lineman.
Should have still taken an O-lineman.
They probably should have. I understand. I get it. Odunze's awesome. I like Odunze a lot. I think he's awesome.
But then let's take it a step further. Do you really think Odunze is more talented than DJ Moore?
I do think Odunze will be better than DJ Moore.
I didn't say will be better. I said, do you think he's more talented? I'm talking right now.
Yes.
Oh, God, no.
Yes.
No way in hell.
Absolutely.
Why, Caleb?
Because DJ Moore has put up 1,000-yard seasons with no quarterback. Why'd you... Pinky died and came back. Good switch, Pinky. DJ Moore, and look, I know I've said this before, he's a top 10 wide receiver in the league. And he's done that with no quarterback. Rome Odunze is not on the same level as DJ Moore. He is not. Could he maybe become that? Maybe. DJ Moore is crazy talented, and you're making Odunze your wide receiver 1 based on play calling. Like, that is foolish.
I think Rome Odunze will be a better wide receiver long-term than DJ Moore. I do.
The only reason that happens is because he got to play with a talented quarterback, which means Caleb Williams became what they thought he would be. Go back and look at what DJ Moore played with. Like, his best quarterback that he played with is Cam Newton. Cam Newton is not a good quarterback as far as throwing the football.
He is not a good quarterback throwing the football.
DJ Moore, Pinky, do you think Justin Fields is a good quarterback? No. DJ Moore had a 1,000-yard, 8-touchdown season with Justin Fields throwing him the ball. Rome Odunze ain't doing that. To me, Rome Odunze is a talented wide receiver that will be a great number 2. He will never be a true number 1. DJ Moore is a true number 1.
I disagree with you on that, but we disagree on a lot of things. So, that's okay. That is okay. At the end of the day, all I know is, again, when and you mentioned it last year, fire Matt Eberflus, get an offensive guy in the building. That way, Caleb and that guy are tied to the hip, and they are like moving this team forward.
I hear people talking all the time. Washington is so happy they got Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams. The Bears should have taken Jaden Daniel over Caleb Williams. You put Caleb Williams in Washington right now with the offensive coordinator who was his offensive coordinator, Caleb Williams is going to look a lot better. I and Pinky both said we would have taken Jaden Daniel over Caleb Williams in the draft. But we didn't think Caleb Williams was bad. And if you put Caleb Williams in that Washington situation with Kingsbury running the offense, I promise you, it looks a lot better than what he's looking like in Chicago. Chicago's a mess. They're a mess. And I think the GM needs to go, and I think the head coach needs to go. And I've had Chicago fans telling me I'm an idiot. And they've been telling me Ryan Poles is a great GM. Just he knows what he's doing. The hell he does. He kept that head coach in power.
Hey, anybody can fleece the Panthers when they're desperate.
Hell yeah. And you put all your draft resources for the last 2 years basically on the defensive side of the ball when this is an offensive league.
Do we forget that Foles gave a second-round pick for Chase Claypool from the Steelers? Where's Chase Claypool right now?
Just saying. He hasn't made any outstanding moves. Just saying.
All right, we've bashed him enough. We've bashed the Bears. Holy moly. Avs are up 6-3 if anybody cares. 6-3.
Detroit Red Wings.
Pinky, let's end on this for the evening. Because we could go plenty of more time, and if we start going rabbit holes, I think we will.
Hold on, 1 second. Nasty Nate has 5 points tonight.
Good for him.
That's
still don't have a goalie. I'm not until they figure that position out. I'm not going to get super stoked per se. I do like seeing the offense starting to come around, though. I mean, they've been definitely starting to gel, which is nice. Let's end on this, and I feel like I'm in the minority on this, but you know how I feel when something happens that's never been done before. And I will give ultimate credit to those situations, and I will not dismiss that. It's why I have Travis Hunter as the Heisman winner. Saquon Barkley doing a spin move out of a tackle and then somehow having the wherewithal to jump backwards with a split over a defender is the play of the year. I don't care what catch happens. I don't care what one-handed catch touchdown happens. Saquon Barkley did something that we have never seen before. And that, to me, is the play of the year right now.
Touche. I'll second that then, Caleb. When you put it like that, okay. I'll meet you there, sir.
It's never been seen before. I still wish there wasn't a crowd of 4 guys behind him and he could have got like a touchdown out of that. Because the guy's taking him down kind of takes it down a little bit, but it's still pretty awesome.
My vocabulary watching that live left my body. Very rarely do I not have words for something. And that literally left me without words for a moment. And that I hear people going, well, you got the Garrett Wilson catch. And then Devontae Smith in the same game may have had the catch of the year. And I said, don't give a shit. I've seen one-handed touchdown catches before. What I have not seen is a dude spin move to break a tackle, take 2 steps backwards, jump over a defender backwards while doing the splits, land, and would have continued to take off if 4 defenders hadn't immediately tried to tackle him. To have the wherewithal to even attempt such a move is mind-blowing to me. Just I can't put into words how crazy it was when I first saw that happen.
Pretty crazy, man. Pretty crazy. Again, it just comes back to, man, the Giants might be all right if they had Saquon still.
I mean, let's be honest.
How bad would the Eagles be right now if they didn't have Saquon?
I mean, what would have they done at running back, right? That's crazy to think about. Let's think about this. The Giants could have kept Saquon, and they could have gone after a Sam Darnold. Would have that been a better situation with Brian Daboll as the head coach than what they have now? Hell yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
Pinky, did you have any final NFL thoughts? I know I kind of rushed you out of there, but I feel like we got to avoid a rabbit hole now with where we're at.
I will tell you guys, and I wish I could be here this weekend to hang out with Robert. That Lions-Texans game on Sunday night, if Nico Collins comes back this week like he's supposed to, man, we could have a game.
It's real interesting real quick, don't it?
We could have a
what I'm
game.
doing Sunday night, but I'm gonna be having some fun.
Them losing Diggs is, I think, kills their true contender potential. Because if you had Collins, Diggs, and Tank Dell still, and you had that three-headed monster, the way Joe Mixon's running the ball and C.J. Stroud, you've got weapons similar to Philly and Detroit and Baltimore, and now you don't have that true. We have more talent than you. We're going to win type of scenario.
I mean, at the moment, I don't see them beating the Bills, the Ravens, or the Chiefs.
No.
Where they're at right now.
But again, we kind of said this would be their step back, but still learn and be really good season, right? Just because of the schedule.
Right.
Diggs going down when he did, though, puts into question his ability to be a true game changer next year. And I think that's where we were looking for them to really be true contenders. And now what does that look like? So it'll be interesting. But yeah, it's going to be a good game.
Absolutely.
Robert.
All right, boys.
Final thought.
I'm just excited, baby. I'm going to New Orleans, going to NOLA, going to represent the Saints after they fire their coach. They're playing the Falcons. They're probably going to get stomped, but
let's go, Kirk Cousins.
We're going to we're going to represent the Saints. We're going to have a good time. And
so you guys are wearing bags on your head?
No.
Damn it. Oh, that'd be an Instagram moment for the page for sure.
Andy will be rooting for the Falcons, even though he's wearing a Saints jersey. It's going to happen.
Yeah. That's going to confuse a lot of people.
My man.
I'm going to wear – I'm debating. I've got a Colorado hat, and then I've got a Broncos hat. I'm debating which hat I want to wear. I might wear my Broncos hat just to confuse everybody. That's always weird. I got so many confused. I got so many people that asked me, like, I was wearing a Broncos hat and a Lions jersey, and I got a lot of questions. And it was cool. Like, I was able to, like, actually talk to them about, like, why I was wearing a Lions jersey. So that was cool.
Robert, final thoughts?
Gentlemen, your homework begins this week. Penguin season finale is on Sunday, so there are 8 episodes y'all need to freaking watch so we can watch this. And then
so that begins
Doom
next
Prophecy
week, Robert.
Comes out
next week
on November 17th. So let's do it. Nerd fandom is at an all-time high. Penguin and Dune, I'm so excited. That's all I have to say.
Wait,
you
Dune
know I'm
what?
not going to be caught up on the Penguin, but I will be up to date on Dune when that starts. So
wait, Dune what?
I'll at least be able to stay there.
Dune Prophecy.
Oh, I won't watch that till it's done. So we're good.
You're lame.
We're fine.
I am stoked to see what this college basketball season produces. Cooper Flagg came out and balled his first game for Duke. 18, 7, and 5, I believe, is his final stat line. Yo, I am very excited. And I don't even give a shit that I am kind of a North Carolina fan rooting for the Dukies. I don't care. Don't care.
Right.
What I like to see is true talent balling out, and Cooper Flagg is the truth.
Hand in your North Carolina card. You're done.
Don't care.
Done.
Don't care.
Done.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, do not take those opportunities for granted. Whenever you have the ability to be with that inner circle, your family, friends, your loved ones, whoever you consider that to be, take advantage of them, cherish those moments, and do not let them pass you by. Pinky, you enjoy your time at your next stadium, my good boy. Robert, we will catch up here soon. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, hit us up however you want to. Let us know what's going on. We'll talk to you soon. We're out.
Peace.
fast lane when I pass in the street. Bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east.